Who was Zino Francescatti? René Charles Zino Francescatti, born on the 9th of August 1902 and died on the 17th of September 1991, was a French virtuoso violinist renowned for his lyrical playing style. Zino was born in Marseille to a musical family. Both parents were trained violinists and teachers. His father, Fortunato, who also played the cello, had studied with Camillo Sivori. Hence, Fortunato was a musical descendant of Paganini, since Sivori was Paganini's student. I had the opportunity to see Sivori's violin alongside Paganini's Canoni violin when I visited the city of Genoa in 2024. The Jean-Baptiste Viol copy of the Canoni in the Palazzo Doriatussi in Genoa. This is Viol's copy. And this is what he copied. Del Gesù Canoni. Fortunato also studied with Antonio Bazzini. Sivori was Paganini's pupil, and hence Fortunato learned Paganini's unique methods of fingering from him. Camillo Sivori was a virtuosic showman of the violin and composer of several violin works, including 2 concertos. Fortunato Francescatti was originally from Verona, Italy. His mother, Ernesta Ferraud, was French from Marseille. She had been Fortunato's pupil before they married. They wed when he was 46 and she was 17. She was a violinist of distinction. Zino's younger brother, Raymond, did not become a violinist. Zino Francescatti studied violin from the age of 3. Henry Roth says from the age of 5. Some say that he started at 3 and gave his first performance aged 5. Anyhow, at the very latest, he started the violin by the age of 5 and was quickly recognised as a child prodigy. He began performing at the age of 5 and made his debut at age 10, playing Beethoven's Violin Concerto. In the beginning, he was given a tiny violin and in the very first lesson tackled a G major scale. He is apparently the only sovereign 20th century violinist to have been taught exclusively by both his parents. As a result, Francescatti was independent of the major conservatories which produced the vast majority of players of the recording era. His father gave him lessons from time to time, but his mother supervised his daily practice. With 3 of them and their pupils, there was violin playing in progress in all parts of their large home, day and night. His father was a stern and sometimes harsh taskmaster who once kept Zino working on a single scale for a whole hour until it was perfect. His mother was Zino's champion and at times his protector, a violin soloist in her own right who was still playing well into her 80s and who died aged 98. His mother took charge of Zino's practice routines, whilst his father concentrated mainly upon artistic cultivation. Zino was a willing pupil and practiced an hour before and an hour after school. He worked on Sevcik, Kreutzer and Gavinius etudes, and stated that he relished every type of technical challenge, from double stops to trills and harmonics, and that he had a natural vibrato. Zino Francescatti himself said, "My vibrato developed by itself naturally, and natural staccato as well." Aged 10 to 15, he was enrolled in a private school to enable him to practice 4 hours or more per day, his typical study day being 16 hours long, and his violin practice often starting at 6:30 a.m. His idols were Issei, Thibaut and Kreisler. At age 10, he performed the Beethoven Concerto. He was not touted as a child prodigy and never participated in competitions, and his rise to renown progressed slowly, with illness disturbing the early part of his career. Indeed, his father was reluctant to let him perform publicly, so he continued to work intensely until he was 20, at which time he went to Paris and his career slowly began to progress. Fortunato was an ardent perfectionist who held his son back from performing for a long time. At age 22, Zino Francescatti received personal encouragement from Jacques Thibault, who actually helped to promote him in his early career. Shortly afterwards, Zino was engaged to accompany the composer Maurice Ravel and the singer Maggie Tate on a concert tour of England, and was given the opportunity to show off Ravel's recent compositions such as the Berceuse and the Zigane. Ravel and Francescatti became friends. In 1925, he made his Paris debut with Paganini's Violin Concerto No. 1, which would soon become a firm favourite of Zino's. And in 1927, he joined the faculty of the École Normale de Musique. As late as 1928, Zino Francescatti worked for a living in the Stradam Orchestra, a leading orchestra in Paris at the time. He also conducted the Concert Poulet, but over the years he continued to doggedly climb the ladder, and made his first world tour in 1931. In 1938, his Western Hemisphere debut took place in Buenos Aires at the Teatro Colón under Jose Iturbi, again playing the Paganini No. 1, his hallmark piece. Apparently, he needed a police escort to exit the venue in order to protect him from the congratulatory crowds. And then his American debut with Sir John Barbirolli and the New York Philharmonic in 1939, again playing Paganini's Violin Concerto, which was to become his hallmark. Once in Detroit, after a performance of Paganini's Il Palpiti, the audience cheered him for a whole 17 minutes. So he was certainly a performer who touched and impressed and moved his audience when he was performing. For 3 decades after 1945, Zino Francescatti had an exceptionally impressive international career, living in both the United States and France. Later in life, he toured and recorded with the similarly fluid French pianist Robert Casadessus in duo Repertoire. They recorded a complete set of Beethoven's violin and piano sonatas, lyrical works ideally suited to their combined styles. Living in New York, but often returning to France to perform and teach, he made durable recordings of several major repertory works, including the Beethoven Concerto with conductor Bruno Walter and the Columbia Symphony Orchestra. And so, Francescatti made many recordings and toured extensively in the United States, Europe, South America and Israel, amongst other places. After his retirement, he established the Zino Francescatti Foundation for young violinists. Francescatti married another violinist, Yolande Potel de la Brière, who was from Paris. She lived from 1905 to 2001, and they were married on the 2nd of January 1930. A violinist of outstanding technical ability, Francescatti played all of the great concerti. His performances of Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor, Saint-Saëns Violin Concerto No. 3, Max Bruch's Violin Concerto No. 1 and others continue to be well regarded. But he was also known as a champion of contemporary violin music by such composers as Darius Milhaud, Leonard Bernstein and Karol Szymanowski. Francescatti was evidently keen to promote new music, frequently programming repertoire by contemporaries such as Prokofiev, Stravinsky, Milhaud, Walton, Bernstein and Hindemith. What of Zino Francescatti as a teacher? Although he admitted gratitude for his father's very rigorous regime of tuition, Francescatti was much more relaxed in his own pedagogic approach. Teaching first at the École Normale de Paris, later in America and then in Provence, his priority was always to nurture and encourage young, talented musicians towards releasing their individuality in musical expression. Both in concerts and on disc, he performed on the celebrated Hart Stradivarius of 1727. More on his violins a little later in the video. He was also very active as an editor of classical repertoire for International Music Company, which continues to publish his work. Upon his retirement in 1976, he sold his instrument and established the Zino Francescatti Foundation to assist young violinists in La Ciotat. In 1987, an international violin competition was organised in his honour in Aix-en-Provence. Perhaps he retired in 1976, or was it 1975? According to Roth, it was 75. After a brilliant career, he decided to retire at age 73, having had enough of the life of travel, of which he was becoming tired and wanting to enjoy the last part of his life quietly. He finished his concert career in fine form, and we see a similar parallel to Heifetz, who was born around the same time as Francescatti and also retired around the same time in his life as Francescatti. After recovering from a serious illness in 1983, Zino Francescatti no longer touched the violin, and he died in La Ciotat, aged 89. Some awards and accolades given to him: the French Legion of Honor, the Order of Leopold, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on Hollywood Boulevard, recognition for recording. And here's a photo that I took myself of this star when I was in Los Angeles back in 2009. Quoting now some words of Henry Roth from page 118 onwards of his book Violin Virtuosos, he says that Francescatti was recognised eventually as the heir to Jacques Thibault and also as one of the world's leading violinists. He was a quiet, modest person whose deportment and social graces were as polished and refined as his playing. Though considered a French violinist, he was actually half Italian and the descendant of Paganini through Sivori. This special knowledge was passed from Paganini to Sivori to Zino's father Fortunato, and then on to Zino himself. Perhaps some of it has been passed down to Zino's students. He had a sound striking in its brightness and clarity, but was very much a 20th century player. An impeccable gentleman of the violin and a bravura technician. As already mentioned, he became renowned for his renditions of Paganini's Violin Concerto No. 1, in which audiences perceived an artistic line of descent from the composer himself. He was a third-generation Paganini pupil, one could say, and Francescatti was universally admired and liked by contemporary violinists and was very widely recorded with orchestras. His violins. Francescatti owned the Antonio Stradivari of 1710 called the Leslie Tate, and he owned that between 1952 and 1992, from 1952 to his death. He also owned the 1727 Francescatti Leslie Hart Stradivarius from 1936 to 1987. Francescatti sold his prized Stradivarius instrument to Salvatore Accardo. In 1987, he used part of the proceeds to establish an educational foundation and a violin competition in the city of Aix-en-Provence. An episode that occurred during a pre-recording rehearsal of Brahms' Violin Concerto raises the question of how much a performer's sound is attributable to the instrument they play. Francescatti had, around 1942, acquired the 1727 Hart Stradivarius, which was thought by critics to be largely responsible for creating a stronger, richer tone in his playing. The instrument, however, became unusable during rehearsal, and Chrysler, who happened to be present, offered his own Guarnerius del Gesù. Francescatti's duo partner, Robert Casadesus, arrived at the rehearsal unaware of this and stated that he could have sworn it was Chrysler playing. That was Zino Francescatti, one of the 20th century greats of the violin.
C'est maman qui m'a poussé. C'est maman qui m'a entraîné, qui a senti que j'étais un violoniste né.
Oh oui, il faisait tout ce que je lui disais, il était très obéissant. Quand il a pris son petit violon à 5 ans, c'est une merveille. Il a joué la gamme de sol à 3 octaves.
Tu te rappelles de ça?
Non.
Pourtant, ça remonte assez loin, ça.
Extraordinaire. Ah oui.
Zino, Francescatti. Ben, si tu as toute la Méditerranée, rien que dans ce nom, t'es là.
J'ai l'attirance pour une belle sonorité. J'ai l'attirance pour tout ce qui est vrai, tout ce qui brille, tout ce qui est beau, pour le soleil. Alors je mets ça dans ma musique, je mets ça dans mon violon.
C'était un Méditerranéen, sa sonore était lumineuse. C'était le bel canto de violon, mais c'était magnifique.
J'aime qu'on m'entende, si je parle, je sais pas qu'on m'entende, si on m'entend pas, c'est pas la peine.
Francescatti était un grand violoniste. Un homme charmant et simple, très simple.
Si j'avais pas été un violoniste, j'aurais été un jardinier. J'aime ça.